training with law enforcement officers to make sure they stayed abreast of the developments. They have two types of law to worry about. They have to worry about the statutory law that's written by the legislature, but they also have to worry about the decisional law that comes from appellate courts. And certainly the ultimate appellate court is the U.S. Supreme Court. So when the U.S. Supreme Court has a pronouncement that changes the interpretation of, say, the Fourth Amendment, it's incumbent upon prosecutors and police agencies to train their officers. Now, when it comes to the citizenry, the reality is most of the laws that are punishable by incarceration are based upon moral code. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. Those are called crimes that are malum in se. They're bad in and of themselves. The other type of laws, the regulatory laws, are called malum prohibitum. And those would be taking a snook out of season or catching an undersized snook. And the reality is the legislature has provided for certain protections for wildlife, but those are not crimes where we're typically expecting people to lose their liberty. So to the extent there are a lot of technical law violations out there, the burden is on the citizenry to make sure just don't go fishing if you don't know the regs.
The police are expected to enforce laws. We expect them to be trained. We expect them to receive training. We expect them to follow the trainings that they are given. People should be informed. People have to be educated. We have to be involved to know what laws exist, and there's new laws all the time. It's the burden's on us to be aware of the laws that exist.
Okay, well, we've got a few minutes. Let me just say that I used to be a doctor for the city of Sarasota. So I talk to the police officers often, and I talk to them about this question. No, they have no clue. They think they have no clue what the laundry list of laws are. They pick a certain number, usually the ones that are on their ticket thing, and those are the laws they enforce. So if you want them to enforce other laws that aren't on their ticket, I probably should talk to the printer, not the police. Just in case you wanted to know, because I don't think they'd mention it to you. All right, so now we're on to administration. Administration is usually part of the executive branch, and their laws often make them the judges of their law, completely destroying the separation of powers. They write the law, they judge the law, and then they execute the law. Does the Constitution support administrative law? Please explain.
Administrative law and its validity comes down to the delegation doctrine. In other words, the legislature writes laws. Let's talk in the federal level. Congress will enact legislation. But occasionally Congress will enact legislation in an area that is hyper-technical. Let me talk about my old field firearms. So the Gun Control Act of 1968 was passed, and it required certain things like firearms transaction records when a gun dealer sells a gun to a private individual. But how would those records look in a record book? Congress didn't decide. Congress delegated to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to create regulations. Now, the regulations are actually published in the Federal Register when they're proposed, and there's a comment period. So some form of regulation is appropriate under the